Whether you like it or not, all good things must come to an end. Welcome back to Budget Lawns, my friends. I appreciate you joining me as always. If you're new to the channel, this is your first video to watch. I hope it's not your last. If you like the information and find it helpful, give me a thumbs up, comment down below. All that stuff really helps us out here on Budget Lawns. Gosh, can you believe it is already towards the latter half of October and the season is coming to an end? We've already had 2 freezes. The Bermuda has just really not much green left at all in it. So it's time to batten down the hatches and get ready for much colder weather ahead. So what am I going to do to finish up that season? There are a few things that I do every single year to make sure I go into winter with nothing to worry about. First thing I like to do before I get all my equipment winterized and put away for the year is I like to go out and get one last cut, edge, and trim and weed eat in on the lawn so I can put it to bed nice and crisp and clean. I know we love looking at a nice green, good-looking lawn, but there is just something about a nice brown dormant Bermuda lawn with crispy edges as well that I like looking at over the winter. I don't want to put it to bed in rough shape. So I get one last day of lawn care in on it, and I've already done that for this season. Got everything nice and cleaned up on the edges like a good fresh haircut. You know what? It's looking pretty doggone good, if I do say so myself, after just one season. So now that I've got it all cleaned up, we'll kind of keep track of some of the leaves throughout the next couple months as they continue to fall off the trees. But that freeze, not once but twice, really sent it into dormancy pretty quickly, pretty early this year. 2 nights dropping well down into the 20s. And I've been telling you that once it went pretty much all the way dormant for the year, that I was going to get a pre-emergent application in on it. Now, normally I would have already had that done by now. It's usually done sometime in September, but since this is a new lawn, I wanted to wait till as close to 12 months as possible for it to establish without throwing a pre-emergent on it. But now that it's pretty much dormant, we're about to the 10-month mark since it was laid. Once it goes dormant like this, there's not going to be a whole lot of really root growth or much growth activity going on at all. So I stopped by Lowe's the other day, got my pre-emergent of choice, Spectracide, Weed Stop for Lawns plus Crabgrass Preventer. Now I've done several videos about this stuff. One a little bit more recently that I will link down below. I'm going to get that down probably tomorrow, which will put us at right at the 3rd week of October. Really, really windy outside right now, so I'm not going to do it today, but we've got rain chances in the forecast, and when I throw this stuff down, I don't really pay much attention to the bag's instructions. I throw it down, get it watered in right away, and that will activate those ingredients that help it act as a pre-emergent and not a post-emergent. So I clean up the lawn, get my pre-emergent down. Then, once I'm done with all the equipment, I got to get that stuff inside. So I'll go ahead and dump any leftover gas out of my string trimmer into my blower, because I'm going to use that blower pretty frequently over the next couple months with all the leaves and everything floating around. I'm going to make sure I keep the garage and the driveway and the entryway pretty well blown off. So I'll dump that into there to reuse that fuel somewhere else. As far as the rotary mower goes, I'm going to go ahead and run that thing bone dry and just leave it dry for the off season. Now I may come back after the first of the year when I put another round of pre-emergent down and add a little bit of gas to it so I can mulch up any leftover leaves and clean things up before I add my winter pre-emergent. But for now, that thing is just going to sit empty. And for the California trimmer, after I have added some stabilizer to my gas cans, which I use just Toro's premium fuel treatment, gives you the instructions on the back how much to add per gallon of gasoline. I think it's 1 ounce per every 2 gallons of gas. So I get that added to my gas cans. And then once I've run the old fuel out of the California trimmer, which I did, I ran that completely bone dry as well. I will go ahead and add some fresh stabilizer fuel to it. and let it run for just a second. Because with that California trimmer, I'm not going to let it sit without being run all winter long. I will come out to the garage once every few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and let that thing run. So I want some fresh fuel with some stabilizer in it to sit in the gas tank and be ready for me to crank it up and let it run every once in a while throughout the off season. And there are lots of brands of this stuff, but if you've got leftover gas in your gas cans, you want to put some sort of fuel treatment in there, some sort of stabilizer. This helps flush out the system, clean the carburetor, all that stuff. So not only are you keeping that gas in good shape, you're keeping your equipment in good shape. So that's how I will put all the equipment away in preparation for the cold off season. So those are the first 3 things I'll do. And the last thing I will do, I'm going to bring in, did a short about this for you the other day because I don't want you to forget. I'm going to bring in, before the first freeze, I'm going to bring in my rain gauge. I made the mistake my first year of not bringing it in, let it freeze one night, any moisture in there, freezes like a rock, cracks it. First rain we got in the spring, I went out to go check it, nothing happened. Put it under the faucet and noticed that it was just dripping water out the bottom. So I bring this in every year once I'm not too worried about how much rainfall I'm getting. I did crack it last year. Brought it in to keep it from cracking and ended up cracking it by dropping it on the concrete floor. But I brought that in, and I'm also going to bring my hoses in. So I'm not the biggest fan of this major slope in my driveway, but I tell you what, it came in handy when it came time to bring the hoses in and let those suckers drain all the way out. I just stretched it from the top of the driveway to the bottom, let all the water run out of it. Get it completely cleaned out so it doesn't freeze in there over the winter time. You definitely don't want to leave those connected to your faucets outside, or even leave them outside for that matter, because they do have a little bit of water in them and they will freeze up if you live in a really cold climate during the winter time like I do. So I just make sure I bring them in. First I'll get all the water out of them, then I'll roll them up nice and tight to store them away for the winter time. So it's really that easy, folks. I get the lawn nice and cleaned up for the winter one last time, then I'll winterize all my equipment. Wait, I think I did that out of order. The order doesn't matter. Look, you can do these things in the order you want. Just clean up your lawn, winterize your equipment. You should already have your pre-emergent down. I'm going to do that tomorrow sometime. And then finally, get your hoses, get your rain gauge, anything that you have outside that you don't want to freeze and maybe bust. You do those things in the fall time before the cold weather really hits. You'll make sure you're set up and ready to go to get things off on the right foot next spring and not be having to put out any fires. All right, my friends, I appreciate you joining me all season long. This season we got lots of content coming for you over the winter time as well. So don't go anywhere. Keep checking your subscriptions and notifications, because we're going to be in touch all the way until next season. Until the next one, though, take care.